You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling. And now, here's your host, John Cross.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I mean, considering, everything that's going on.
Well, you guys are right in the thick of it. Like I read today, New York City's become this big epicenter for it all.
Yeah, I mean, it's
if you're to believe that.
No, I mean, I think it has. I mean, I'm usually as cynical as the next dude about the media, especially the American media. But I'm choosing to, steadfastly believe this, and it doesn't make any illogical. It makes perfect sense that the most populated city in America would be an epicenter. That kind of makes sense.
It does.
I also think that, obviously we didn't have, if Cuomo's to be believed, we didn't have testing in the way that we should have done. And now that we're getting a bit of testing, I think the reason why we're seeing the numbers jump the way we're seeing them is because finally everyone's getting tested.
We're having the same thing up here in Canada. Like in BC, it's gone up exponentially in the last 3 days, but it's because the tests are coming back, right? Right,
so exactly. And also expected. Because, the other thing is with this is that not everyone well, you can hear someone shouting on the streets of Brooklyn tonight. I don't know if you can hear that, but
I can hear that, yeah.
Someone in the background
Someone's had enough.
The streets of Brooklyn is just going mad. I don't know where they were. But and I didn't understand what they were complaining about. But it's probably COVID-19 related. Let's be perfectly clear.
For sure.
It's that's the thing is that I live in an incredibly densely populated city, and I live in a country that sadly does not have the best track record when it comes to both politician statements and its 24-hour news cycle. So I think you put those two together, coupled with the natural cynicism and tendency for people not to kind of want to do whatever the government says. And you kind of put that all together and you kind of get the soup that we're all living in. Kim and I have been self-quarantined for 10 days. Luckily, Kim has always worked from home, or certainly the last year she has. And luckily my job is something I can do from home. So we're in the very privileged position of our companies being able to send us home and self-quarantine as of Thursday 2 weeks ago. So we're coming up on 14 days tomorrow.
Good for you.
So, we're hiding out. We went to, I think the last time we went anywhere that was even remotely densely populated was last Monday when we had to go to a supermarket and we had to also put a check in the bank. But, we stood 6 feet apart from people as much as we could. And, we didn't touch our faces and we washed our hands and all the rest of it. So, I think I'm, whatever that is, 8 or 9 days away from my last intense human interactions. So
it's so far so good too. Not feeling anything. No
touch wood, dude.
Yet.
Touch wood. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. But that's where we're at. We're trying to be sensible. We're trying to stay healthy. We're trying to stay sane.
It's a big thing.
And yeah, exactly. And the two things I'm doing with any kind of consistency is. One is doing my silly ukulele videos, my daily ukulele videos to kind of cheer the kids up because good friend of mine, Andrew Morris, is doing something with his local daycare center where he has friends and employees sort of throw together either teaching stuff or fun stuff or creative stuff for the kids. And he wanted to put one of my ukulele videos into his compilation video, and I said sure. And then that gave me the idea of well, hell, if there's a demand for it, why don't I do it daily? You know,
good for you. Why not? And it's fun, right? That's the big thing. You do it for other people, and you got to do it for yourself too.
Oh yeah, no, completely. I mean, nothing I'm doing is in any way altruistic, like selfless and
selfless, yeah,
and purely giving. It's always any kind of creativity fuels my engine, so it's good for me. And the other thing I decided to do was to roll out the podcast again, and instead of just doing sort of regular film reviews every week like we had been doing from the diner, I thought, well, as I'm going to be Skyping even with my regular co-host Jim, I'm going to be Skyping him instead of being across the table from him. I was like, well, why don't I Skype everybody? And
exactly.
Normally I'd kind of backed away from doing the Skype episodes because they can often result in more editing, and they sometimes lack the excitement of the live diner thing. But I thought, well, as I'm going to be Skyping anyway, and I thought to myself, let us round up not only the usual suspects, but kind of everyone that I've ever had on the show, and let's just do some regular top fives and get talking about some of the movies that made us and some of the stuff we grew up with, and I don't know, just put out a series that's a little bit more community focused, I guess.
Well, it's a good idea, right? We're all in this together. And I think it's great. And we even yesterday, we usually do our basement show, from the Radio NL studio on Friday nights, but we can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So last night was the first time Sean and I had to ever do a show over Skype in the 10 years we've been doing it. You know what I mean? Like we were not in the same place. And it's a learning curve. It's different because you're not there.
Yeah.
Interacting with each other, right? It was a bit of a learning curve, but it keeps the show going, and it's a good way to keep in touch.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And it's been lovely to just have friends, WhatsApp me or Google Hangouts me or Facebook video me or whatever, just out of the blue to chat. You kind of tap yourself and go, why weren't we doing more of this anyway? I think it's what's really interesting about this current situation is that, we'd all got very used to social media being the thing. And if we liked someone's post or shared someone's post or commented on someone's post, we assumed that was kind of keeping up with them or keeping in touch with them or whatever. And even with like us and some of our other podcasting friends, you and I will message each other occasionally, or we'll comment on a thing, or we'll have a little back and forth, and we read each other's updates, and I kind of go, okay, cool, I got a handle on what Jason's up to, and and I'm kind of ticking along, but. It's funny. There's really no substitute. Even if all you do is phone each other and talk, bollocks at each other. Even you just kind of, just make stuff up and talk about, I don't know, the latest movie you watched, or you talk about, I don't know, having to do the laundry or whatever. Whatever you talk about, it's that interaction, isn't it? That
it is.
Social media, as good as it can be and as positive as I really try and make my social media, and I really do try very hard to make my social as positive as possible, it's no substitute for a good old chinwag, as we say.
No, it's not. It's not.
This is a pleasure having you on the show, Jason. For people who don't know, our guest this episode is Jason Hewlett, who has been doing the From the Basement or film reviews from the basement podcast show and radio show for how long now? 10 years, you just said, right?
10 years, yeah, which is amazing. And it went from, the little podcast to campus radio to internet radio, and now we're primetime radio here up in Canada, which is pretty cool on Friday nights. It took 10 years to get there, but wow.
Hey, look, man, there's a trajectory right there, and you've, I'm doing this. I'm doing the same show I was doing 9 years ago, dude. So, I'm still just, as long as I can pump out the occasional article and the occasional podcast, then I feel accomplished. But you guys do regular reviews, regular blog posts. You've got a trajectory from podcast to local radio, and that's phenomenal. And you've got the talents to back it up, which is the best thing. You. And you and Sean do a great job, and it's always worth reading and listening what Jason and Sean from the basement have to say. So don't forget to follow them on Facebook and Twitter and all those good places. But as I said, we are doing Friends Top Fives this session or season or whatever you want to call it of the Diner. And Jason's put together a great top 5 of indie horrors. Is that it? Indie horrors, indie thrillers? Is that
indie horror flicks from like the last year-ish, you know what I mean? Because I'm fine. I think you find the same thing, John, because you guys talk about it a lot, like you do your mainstream reviews. But the real gold comes, I think, in the indie circuit for most stuff. Sean and I've always maintained that. It's because people are making, they don't have the like bazillions of dollars, so they got to be smart, talented, and they put their heart and soul into it.
I agree, and it's interesting because I probably don't even get to watch as many as I would like. I think only a couple of the ones that you have listed that we're going to go through I've actually heard of, let alone actually seen, and a lot of the other ones I hadn't even heard of. So, and I think you guys probably get sent even more either screeners or indie films than I do. And I only get to watch about 1 out of every 10 that I get sent. And that's normally for either an interview or for a review purpose. With my day job, I just don't sadly always have the time. But when I do, as you have rightly said, I do find that the interesting stories and the exciting stories are being told in indie film right now, even if it's sort of what I call lower tier studio indie, where maybe it has a little bit of financing and a one name star in it, like a Come to Daddy or a VFW or a Tone Deaf or any of those movies that have come out recently that have, Mandy was obviously a big indie hit for Panos Cosmatos last year, and Kay just followed it up with Richard Stanley and Color Out of Space, which we enjoyed a lot. So I think we tend to see at the Diner like that kind of level of indie, like the kind of stuff that may get a week in a indie theater or a retro theater house in New York. Jim and I try and go and see those screenings at like the IFC Center Anthology Film Archive or something like that. And then I see the odd indie that gets circulated via my email inbox, as I say, when I can. But does your top 5 have an order, or do you just want to kind of pick the first one and you can just let me know kind of how you came across it and what it's all about?
Yeah, let's pick the first one. And you're right. We get, like, especially now with COVID, we're getting stuff sent. I can't keep track of it all. To try to watch all of it, it's going to be almost impossible.
Yeah.
Most of these, I'd say two of these we were sent. One I sought out, and then the others were stuff that I kind of just came across on demand. But the first thing we'll touch on, I think it's my favorite of the 5, John, is Echoes of Fear, which we were sent. And it's directed by Lawrence Avon Bradley and Brian Avon Bradley. And it stars Trista Robinson, who's kind of been making the indie circuits as kind of a up-and-coming screen queen.
Right.
And it's a haunted house movie-ish is the best way that I like to describe it.
Yeah.
About a gal who inherits her grandfather's home after he dies suddenly. And she goes in and is trying to figure out what to do with the property, and weird stuff starts to happen. That's sort of the basic plot, but it's got a really good twist to it that I don't want to give away here. But I was blown away by this movie. It's one of those ones, you get sent something, you're like, oh, do I want to watch it? You just decide you're gonna, and is it going to be worth my time? And there's about halfway through this movie, I was like doing something I don't do, and I was jumping out of my chair at some of the scares in it.
Nice.
It was really, really well done. It's well paced, very well acted by Trista Robinson and then Hannah Race, who's one of her friends. And it's got these gotcha moments that you just don't get that much anymore. Like, it relies on building old school scares, like not jump scares, but building old school scares. And it just kind of gets this momentum going
Nice. So
slow
it's not
burn
just
that
like
becomes a
doors
fast burn.
slamming and chairs falling over. As there was a spate of horror movie, especially ghost horror movies, where it was look, we slammed a door behind someone, and you're like, all right,
Yeah.
great.
Great. I was mildly shocked. The worst I found, the original, like the Boogeyman from like 2005, where they scared us by dropping a bag into a garbage can.
Yeah.
Just the way they edited it, that was like the most insulting jump scare. This doesn't have that. It's got a few little ones.
Yeah.
But it's all serving a greater purpose, and it takes its time to get there. And what I liked, the one thing that always pisses me off in these movies is the person never leaves the house. And there's one moment after a scare where Trista Robinson's character is just like, I'm out, and she leaves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the ghost follows her. The ghost follows her. So it's okay. You've got a reason to keep things going, right?
Yeah.
And so there's brains behind it. And it's done really well on the festival circuit. You can find it now. It's out on demand at most places. And I think people should check it out. It's probably one of my favorite horror flicks of the last 5 to 10 years.
That's awesome. I will definitely check that out. That sounds great. Because I think my caution, as I said, with like kind of ghost horror is that I think ever since Paranormal Activity, the tendency has just been, have some people in a house and, occasionally a candle lights by itself or a chair falls over or a door slams or a window rattles or whatever. And you're like, okay, guys, come on. Like,
we've seen this before hundreds of times.
Well, yeah, there's like 878 paranormal activities. And then since then we've had, the two Conjurings. And I quite liked the first Conjuring. I thought that was good. But I thought the second one that's set in London was not any good at all. I thought it was almost ridiculous in points. But then that's been spun off into all these like possessed doll movies, and I'm like,
the Annabelles, the Nuns, all of them, right? Yeah.
And I think what it is we're probably getting to the generation where, and this isn't just remakes anymore. This is just we're getting to the generation where the films that are often being made or that are often being mass marketed are no longer for us, Jason.
No, they're not. We are not the target demographic anymore, John, by any stretch.
So they're for people who haven't seen the 40 plus years of movies that we've seen, or the 100 plus years of movies that we've seen. Because I think what's interesting is every time this a wave of a genre comes up or even a remake comes out, and I'm talking with people on Twitter, and I'm trying not to be just knee-jerk, I hate remakes or I hate this particular genre trope, and I talk with people, what I end up realizing is that a lot of the people on social that are talking about film these days haven't seen the films we've seen. You know what I mean? They haven't seen the history of film. And that's not me being like arrogant, look at how much stuff I've watched. It's just, for whatever reason, the current generation is far more intent on whatever's going on right now. Whereas we were all raised, I think, by either brothers and sisters or parents who were watching stuff from even when they were kids. So we were seeing stuff from the 40s and 50s and 60s when we were growing up, and we just continued to do that. Like, as we became adults, we just continued to be like, well, I can pick a movie from 1943 as much as I can pick a movie from 2013,
Exactly. And you see it every year too. Like, there'll be this new Netflix movie comes out and everyone's like, it's the scariest movie ever, where you can't get through it. And then the next year it's like, oh, this is the scariest movie ever, you can't get through it. And I go and watch all of them. I'm like, what are you talking about? Didn't you see The Exorcist? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Have you not seen The Exorcist, or what was the one that I did recently? And my brain's fried today, dude. That I'm even forming sentences is phenomenal. But Poltergeist, of course, is the other one.
Yes, of course.
But no, so Echoes of Fear, what I love is about streaming is that it really is at the moment chock full of these little gems. And I think that the hardest thing is to find them, because very often if you get burnt 2 or 3 times, unless you have, like my good friend Tim Gross does, once described the movie-watching constitution of a billy goat. In other words, he'd watch absolutely anything you're put in front of. If you're like me and you just don't have the time, if you watch 3 duff horror movies, you're like, well, I've been burnt 3 times. I'm not going to... So I think that's where independent podcasters and reviewers are doing the movie lord's work and winkling these gems out of obscurity and putting them in front of people. So I want everyone listening to, if you're into indie horror and into indie thriller and genre film, and you're sat around going, oh, I don't know what to watch on streaming, please do pick out these 5 that Jason has picked. So Echoes of Fear, first on our list. It's a ghost horror movie set in a haunted house. Sounds great. I like the idea of a character actually saying, nope, that's it. I'm not staying in the house.
I was so relieved. I cheered. Yes, finally.
Yeah. And I'll be so interested to see what the twist is, because there's nothing I like more in a horror movie than some good, smart writing and some strong characteristics. So, looking forward to that, sir. So should we go on to Sea Fever next, which is your second on the list of your top 5?
Yeah, and it's one we just reviewed it on our last show. Because it comes out April 2nd. It hits theaters. It was played at TIFF. So this is something that's made the round. It's an Irish movie. Directed by Nisa Hardiman, who's done, cut her teeth on some Jessica Jones episodes, etc.
Yeah.
Connie Nielsen's in it, Doug Ray Scott, Hermione Corfield. And it's pretty timely. It's a group on a fishing trawler that goes into these uncharted waters, of course, and they suddenly find themselves under attack by a parasite. And that's the basic bit, and they have to kind of quarantine themselves before they get back to shore to prevent the parasite from spreading. And it's just what happens over the course of this bit. One of the people on board, Hermione Corfield's character is like this biologist who's trying to figure out how to stop this parasite. Really, really well made. Like it's a beautiful looking movie, under the water, above the water. It's a stone cold movie. There's no winking, nudging. It's pretty humorless. It's very isolated feeling. It's kind of, I look at it like a little bit like The Thing, Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah, it's definitely got that echo just from the idea, and also a little bit of Leviathan, which itself was also a sort of The Thing under the water kind of feel. And isn't there an X-Files episode that was a little thing-like, where there is but it is more of a parasite, less of a big monster, and more of a parasite?
They went to the Arctic for something.
Right.
That was in my head too, and they got isolated in this camp. So it's kind of along that line too, right? It's not a new idea by any stretch, but this one is just really well. And that's what I appreciate. Like at first, whenever I review a movie, I want entertainment factor. That's the most important thing to me. Then I fall back on filmmaking. This has got the entertainment factor. It's not like a blood and guts movie. It's got a few sequences like that, but it's just well acted and really well made and well paced. Like it's slow. Like it's 90 minutes. It feels longer, but it's not that, oh, come on, hurry up and end.
Yeah.
It's just, you're being pulled along deliberately. And I like the movies that do that.
Yeah, it's
not particularly scary, but entertaining.
It's remarkable, isn't it, how cinematography plays a big part in these, especially these indies or slightly lower budgeted films. If something, again, and I don't want to sound like an old grumpy man in a cardigan, but I am. We had got so used to, or frustrated by, in my case, a lot of indie movies being shot on sort of handheld with this kind of a greeny brown filter on it, because for some reason filmmakers thought that horror movies needed to look like someone had thrown up on the footage, and
right?
and that the only way to scare people was to shake the camera all over the place. And when you suddenly come across something that takes real care in the way it's photographed, it's such a breath of fresh air to me. I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's such a rarity, sadly to say, these days. Kim and I just finally got to see Queen and Slim, which I'd been wanting to see in the theater and sadly didn't get a chance to. And aside from a couple of sequences which were kind of handheld for reasons, it was so well photographed that I was just like, oh my goodness, thank I was so thankful for that. It was so nice to just kind of sit back and watch a film that was well photographed. And I'm looking at the screenshots from Sea Fever on IMDb right now and some of the stuff, and it looks fantastic. I mean, I hope this is locked down and the camera's not waving all over the place, because the photography looks fantastic.
It is. And Sean was saying that too, because we watched a movie a couple of weeks before it called Dead Sound, which the whole thing takes place on a boat, and it is that handheld, and it's it's the people that think you got to have the hyperactive camera, and we just were both like, thank God you didn't get seasick watching Sea Fever. It's locked in. It's more like Jaws or something. You know what I mean? Which Jaws was handheld, but you couldn't really tell.
Right.
It was more kind of like that.
There's no reason for it. The moment it's like what I always argue with the whole lens flare and so on. If you have lens flare, you are accepting or acknowledging that what you're watching is going through a camera. And so likewise, if the camera is like wobbling all over the place, I know that behind the camera there is either a cameraman who's busting for a piss or just someone shaking the camera all over the place. It's not, to me, drawing my attention in. I should definitely be aware of the artistry and beauty of a film, but I should never be aware necessarily of a physical cameraman or person, rather, camera person. I should not be like abundantly aware of them. And when I think back, the director that constantly gets name checked by us movie lovers of a certain age is, of course, the master John Carpenter. And when you sit back and watch his films, the thing that is so utterly remarkable about them is his widescreen photography. It is absolutely what he did on a budget, both small and big. I think is better widescreen photography than Spielberg or Nolan or anyone. I think it's just the cinematographers he worked with and the way he formed a shot was just out of this world. And when I see it in an indie movie or I see it in a lower budget movie, I always appreciate it. I mean, I know everyone went on about Uncut Gems. I still haven't watched it because the trailer irritated me. The trailer irritated me so much that the idea of sitting down and watching 2 hours worth of that kind of camera work.
I have no interest. It's nothing. I'm sure it's a great film. It's not something I prefer to sit and be entertained by. That's my bit with most movies, right? Am I going to think I'm going to be entertained by it? I'll give it a chance. But if it doesn't appeal to me, forget it. I'm not even going to, no matter how much praise it gets. Definitely worth your time, this one. And it's this one too, and it's like you're talking about the camera work between Sea Fever and also Echoes of Fear. I mean, you're going in, you're watching a movie, but yeah, they use the camera to help tell the story, not distract you from what's going on, which I think is a sign.
Nice. Apparently more people are screaming on the streets of Brooklyn. We're not quite sure why. Again, people are probably just going mad. All right, so on to your third choice, dude. Let's talk about My Soul to Keep. This is one of the ones I've actually heard about, but I'm interested to see already. Let me know all about this one, sir.
Well, yeah, this one, we sought it out because I saw it was being promoted by Joe Blow and Arrow in the Head. Of course, we're friends with them over there at Arrow in the Head. So I sought out the filmmakers, Ajmal Zahir Ahmad, who's the director, and the producer, Justin Hainous. And it is a throwback, John, to the kind of movies that I grew up with during the 80s, where a boy believes there's a monster living in his basement and it's trying to steal his soul. And the whole point of the movie, obviously, is him. Is this real or is it just in his head? And it's a very much a focus on the young boy and his experiences, so it's told through his eyes. It's another movie. It's a low budget movie, but very well. It looks very slick. I mean, it's probably the slickest looking one of the three here, and it has that kind of 80s emblem vibe to it.
Nice.
Except it takes place today. Yep. There's a few bits, like you're saying with the filmmaking, where you become aware that there's a camera there, etc. But the whole movie just has this real nice tone and tempo to it. We hadn't seen a movie where there, children endangered, like in The Lost Boys or Gremlins, for a long time.
I love seeing children in danger. Well. I'm a big fan of that.
Well, it's just, it doesn't happen anymore. And these movies, let's face it, horror movies, I mean, the audience, at least when I was growing up, was people my age, the 9, 10, 12-year-olds. We loved these movies. We went to see them, and the filmmakers knew that. Because if you're a youngster and you're watching a movie with a youngster, and you're just naturally more invested, right?
Yeah.
So it's good stuff, and it's creepy, and it has a very good kind of conclusion. I was not disappointed by at all. And it's a lot of fun, and it's a good, I think if you have kids, which I do, my guy's 8, he's almost at the age where he could watch this. It's a good gateway horror movie.
Yeah, I mean,
for someone out of that age.
We've been enjoying, I mean, obviously Stranger Things kind of kicked off the trend, but we've been enjoying some of those series on Netflix. The latest one is called I'm Not Okay With That. Is that what it's called?
Yes, we've watched that. I've watched that as well.
And before that, there was also The End of the Fucking World, which was also a series out of England that's, again, exceptionally well directed. And those are a little older. Those are like teens or young adults. But we've, even in our 40s, have been enjoying watching those series, not just for their throwback quality, but also for the stories and the acting and the fact that, they're casting quirkier people. Quirky has become the key word for programming these days. And once you kind of get past that, it's really well done and really enjoyable. Another one we watched recently, which was very kid focused, and wasn't a horror film at all. It was more of a kind of almost a Wes Anderson style comedy. That was Timmy Failure. Mistakes Were Made on Disney Plus, which was at Sundance and is all about a kid who believes he has a best friend and work colleague who is a giant polar bear, and he lives in Oregon and claims he's a detective. So it sort of has a kind of Rushmore feel to it because he's not interested in schoolwork and in fact fails repeatedly at schoolwork, but keeps focused on this extracurricular activity world, which is also kind of in his imagination as well. So it all sort of plays into kind of what you were talking about with My Soul to Keep in a weird way. But that was really good fun. And I don't like if kid stuff is well made and well written, I'll watch it. Like I've got nothing against watching kid stuff at all. It's just gotta have the it's got to have the strength of its own convictions and not just be, I don't know, quirky for its own sake, I think.
Yeah, and this one isn't. It plays it pretty serious, which is what I liked about it, right? Like, it's just more told from the child's perspective and having, what it's like to be, in this one he's 9, so a kid of 9, and then you've got, your big sister who's a bitch, and the parents are really good, but they don't quite believe what's going on because nobody believes 9-year-olds. Right. When they say they think there's something down in the basement, right? And so it plays on that fear really, really well. And it really sticks, which I like, to his perspective. You know what I mean? It rarely leaves the main character's side, the camera or the story. So it becomes, you're experiencing everything through his eyes. So when the scares do start to come, you're invested in it that way. And it has a good payoff. So I really recommend it. I mean, and I don't want people to be scared by the thought that, this is a good gateway horror for younger people. As an adult, Sean and I watched it together. We're both in our 40s, but we still really enjoyed the film as well. And it's out, I believe, on all platforms now, too. So it's definitely worth seeking out. Yeah, it's out for rental on Amazon, so I might go ahead and rent that. The other thing that it kind of conjures to my mind is stuff like Time Bandits or later on something like Tideland even, although that's a bit bleaker and a bit darker. But those filmmakers that can, as you say, tell a story from a kid's perspective. Recently there was, and in fact it blew up on Netflix once it came up on Netflix, but the movie Freaks did a very good job of that as well with the young girl in Freaks, which I was a huge fan of, but possibly has too many well-known people in it to necessarily count as a strict indie, but that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that movie, and I was glad to see it blow up on Netflix. I think it's on the top 10 Netflix viewed films, or it was certainly when it first came out, and there was even a Guardian article written about it. So
Good job to those directors who I had the pleasure to talk to.
That's awesome. Very awesome.
With Freaks, if you haven't seen it, check it out. But no, I love movies from a kid's perspective. It's good to be reminded what it was like to be a kid, and for kids, it's good to have stuff that is, rather than talking down to them, is from their actual perspective, I feel. So that's good. All right, so your next one is looks to me like possibly a Bigfoot movie or some kind of monster in the woods movie. It's called Big Legend. Tell us all about this.
Have you seen this one, John? You haven't seen this one, eh, John?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard about it. It's on the list. It's on the ever-growing list. It's and it's available on Prime Video. So I'm actually it's actually on my list. It's on my watch list as we speak.
Well, and it's a gooder, as we like to say up here in Canada, and it is definitely a Bigfoot movie. And I mean, there's been so many Bigfoot movies over the years, most of them pure junk. This one's not. I really liked it. I hold it up there with Abominable, which came out back in 2003.
Oh, I love Abominable. Yeah.
And it's really good. And the connection here is that Lance Henriksen's in this one as well, as he was in Abominable. Of course he is, because Lance is in everything, right?
No, what? Just that Lance should be hunting Bigfoot. That's what Lance should be doing for the rest of his career.
I agree. This one, basically, it's a guy who was on a camping trip with his fiancée. She disappears on that trip. So he heads back out to find out what's going on, and he crosses paths with a local hunter who's out there looking for Bigfoot, and they together go out in search of what might have happened to the fiancé, and naturally they do encounter the legend of Bigfoot. That's the simple premise. Shot in the woods, so low budget, good creature design in this one, which I quite liked. And just it's I like monster movies, so I'm always willing to give them a little bit extra try here. And there's a good throwdown between hunter and monster. But what I really liked is at the end, it does a brilliant job of setting it up for more of these movies.
Nice.
Yeah, and they do it in a way that I'm like, yes, I want to watch more of these. I want a Big Legend too, and how it plays about it. Not in a contrived way, which usually it's like, oh, well, there's another Bigfoot killing people. And it's a really neat setup for more. So they had some thought put into it. But even just as a standalone movie, it's just an enjoyable man versus beast in the woods flick. Very dark. The cinematography is like that dark, but the kind of dark I like. Like everything's very moody and gloomy in the woods. Some good suspense. And like I said, they did a great job on creating a good Bigfoot in this one, because that's half the battle. Like Abominable was fun because it was a cheesy man in suit kind of thing.
Yeah.
This one looks a little more monster-y. I'm sure it was still a guy in a suit, but it looks more monster-y. It's not a corny flick by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, what I like is that when I bring it up on Amazon Prime, it says customers who watch this also watched Hunting Grounds, which is the movie by my friend John Portanova, who I had the pleasure of having lunch with when I was in Seattle. And I'd never met him before, but we had talked many times. And he wrote and produced Hunting Grounds, which I super enjoyed, which has Bill Oberst Jr. in it. I also have my good friend Owen up in the great state of Vermont, and he is a huge Bigfoot fan. So maybe what I'll do is I'll watch the movie and have him on to chat about Bigfoot movies, and maybe we could bring Big Legend up again, because I'm a bit of a Bigfoot fan as well. I don't get into the whole conspiracy of it because I just, who has the time? But movie wise, I mean, I suppose if you got to devote your life to something, devote it to Bigfoot if you want, but I do just
right?
I do just like the movie. Well, why not? Exactly, gets you out in the open air, right?
It does, exactly.
A bit of camping, bit of fishing, bit of hunting. So that sounds good to me. And if you happen to find Bigfoot, then so much the better. If you don't, you've at least got some exercise and some fresh food.
Been outside.
Yeah. So that sounds great. I'm a big fan of B-movie monster movies, and Bigfoot just it's not going away from the 70s to now. It's a fascination that still tugs at the heart of North America.
Well, it is, and I think it's something like he's very rarely been well represented on film for whatever reason. You know what I mean? Like there's tons of Bigfoot movies out there that like a dime a dozen, but most of them are just junk. Like I think the last good one, other than Big Legend, was probably Abominable, and we're just going back like 17 years already, right?
Or Hunting Grounds, but I'm biased because obviously a big fan of John's work. But yes, I know.
Yeah, and I haven't seen that yet. So I can't. I'm going to have to now get on that and watch it. For that reason. But I mean, of the ones I've seen, this has definitely been one of the better ones. And I mean, of course, Eric Red's working on his No Man's Ridge, which we're hoping will get out, build a film after the COVID-19 ends. And I'm sure he'll do a good job. But yeah, this Big Legend is good. Like I say, you're right. It's on Amazon. It's easy for people to find. So I encourage people who are like you and I, John, who like these monster flicks to check it out.
Yeah, and the appeal, I guess, to filmmakers is you don't need a big cast. You can go out into the woods as long as you have kind of somewhere you can make camp, and you can film most of it without really showing the monster, and then you can spend what money you do have on the few shots or the handful of shots you need to get to actually show the monster, and then. You've got yourself a Bigfoot movie, I mean, unless you want to go all out and spend so much money that you could show the monster like throughout the film all the time doing a bunch of stuff. But as we know from good monster movies, the less you show and the more you hint at, the more exciting it is.
I agree, and that's what I like about, I think, even too with low-budget horror, like these movies we're talking about here. And in none of these movies do you see much of the ghost or the monster or whatever, and that makes them more interesting. Like Jaws wouldn't have been as effective if the shark had worked, right? And you saw it all the time. It's better when you only see a few scenes. It has that impact. You jump back in your chair. You're sold. You don't need, if you're doing good filmmaking, you don't need to show it either.
Halloween 2018, prime example. The Halloween sequels in general show too much of Michael, but Halloween 2018, I mean, they just. What was all that about? Anyway, I was not a fan of that movie, unlike the rest of the entire world.
Well, I loved it. I loved it. But I agree with you. It had more. It was like the sequels. It had a lot of Michael.
Not only that, but
Michael, basically.
It at least in the regular sequels of the original run, the focus of the camera was, even if Michael was on camera a lot, it wasn't like the camera followed Michael around. The camera was always following either Dr. Loomis or whoever the protagonist was. And even if Michael showed up, he was in, he was seen through the eyes of someone else. In Halloween 2018, the camera was just like, I guess this whole section is just us following Michael around then, huh? Are we going to get to know any of these people he's killing? Nope. Okay, fair enough. It literally like hovered on Michael and followed Michael around, and I was just a bit I was like, it didn't make any sense. Like, even in the original Carpenter one, I know what people are going to say. People are going to be like, look, the camera was inside the car in the original Carpenter one, and it followed Michael for that whole section at the beginning of the movie, and da-da-da-da. And I would say this, yes, but the focus of your interest was not Michael. The focus of your interest was the character that he was stalking in the first one, because you only cut inside the car to look at Michael's perspective of the character that you are following. And if you're not invested in the character that he's following, cutting inside the car to be behind Michael's shoulder doesn't give you the willies, because you couldn't care less who he's stalking if you're fanboying all over Michael and making him Freddy Krueger or whatever, where the focus became more Freddy than it did who he was killing. The best thing about Halloween, certainly the first few, and is you always have Donald Pleasance, or you have a character that Michael is stalking that you are hopefully invested in some way. Both things 2018 forgot to have, in my particular opinion. Anyway, I don't know how we got off on that, but let us wrap up your top 5 with The Wind.
The Wind, yes. Now, this is one I watched totally by accident. I was looking for something to watch, and it just came up on my queue on Apple TV, and it's something you don't see much of. It takes place during the Wild West, and it's a horror film that takes place during the Wild West from the focus of a frontierswoman, and just when her and her husband settle in this desolate bit of wilderness, things start to happen. Another couple moves in next door, and of course, next door in Frontier Times means they're way the heck away.
Yeah.
Right? But they sort of begin this kind of friendship. But again, it's one of those weird things start to happen, and there's a constant wind. And it's a slow burn, very artful genre film that's set in the West, starring Caitlin Gerard, who's the main character, Lizzie, and the whole movie rests on her shoulders, and she carries it very, very well. It's one of those movies, I hate it when they do this, like where by the end you're like, well, was it real or was it all in her head? But I didn't mind because it did such a good job of just telling this slow burn, scary story in a setting we just don't see much in these kind of films. And to say any more about it would ruin what the movie is about. But it's great performance by Caitlin, very well made, very female director Emma Tammy, screenplay by Teresa Sutherland. They just really they captured just what it'd be like to be a woman trying to survive in this environment. And that's basically all I can say about it. It's just a very good, low-key, almost existential horror film.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. It reminds me a little bit, slightly different, but it reminds me a little bit of Gwen. Did you get to see Gwen when it came out?
No, I never did, and I wanted to so badly, but it sounded similar.
The William McGregor film. Again, I'm not really one for sort of either rural or folk horror, but when it's done right, I love it. And, there aren't many that do it right. There's a lot that can be quite, couldn't get through The Witch, for example, recently when that came out. I was not a fan of that. And the whole Midsummer thing, again, I didn't even go near that one because I'm like, you're not telling me that a movie works for 2 hours, 40 minutes. You're not telling me that a horror movie works for 2 hours, 40 minutes. I just don't believe it. There's no way. Like, people struggle nowadays to have tension for 90 minutes. You're not telling me that for 2 hours and 40 minutes it's either interesting or has tension or is horrific or holds my interest. I just fundamentally don't believe anybody when they say that it does.
Well, I'm like you. I think no horror movie should be longer than 90 minutes, roughly. Maybe you can get away with 95. I like The Invisible Man. My one complaint was they could have cut out 20 minutes.
Well, that's what I like
about
all these movies you've listed. They're all within 90 minutes,
yes,
which is just my wheelhouse. Get in, get out, scare me, show me some interesting stuff, put a decent character in there, and I'm with you. If you try and ramble on and on and on, I mean, listen, to the guy who does like 3-hour podcasts about nothing, like I should take my own fucking advice. You know what I mean? Listen, I'll call it when I see it, dude. I will call myself out and tell myself that I'm an asshole. And it's great. Like, people cannot, like, I've gone back to try and listen to my old episodes and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, shut up, John.
That's why we like the challenge of a 22-minute radio show. Get in and say as much as you can in 22 minutes and then bail.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying, although it's funny, again, I'm trying to keep this current series of interviews / top fives with my friends and podcasting colleagues down to sort of to an hour to 90 minutes of the show. And the first one I put out was 2.5 hours.
Oh, my God.
But the next one I recorded, I think, is just shy of 90 minutes. And this one looks like it'll probably round out at just over sort of 60, 65 minutes. So we're good. So it's fine. I'm figuring it out. But it's only been 9 years of podcasting, and I'll get there one day. But yeah, no, I totally agree with you. A horror movie should be 90 minutes, and when done right, a good horror western or even a folk horror from Europe is well worth your time. Like, I always want to see. I think what I always find a little difficult is when they're going to do a cross-genre picture. Sometimes they lean too heavily on one of the genres versus the other.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, weirdly enough, what I really liked about Bone Tomahawk was that it was a Western. Like, you didn't watch it and go, okay, this is a horror but set in a Western time. Like, it was a Western. It looked like a Western. It felt like a Western. And when the horror stuff starts happening, it was within the the setup and the genre of the Western, which to my mind was a bit of a breath of fresh air, because very often, if it's, even though it's a period piece, they lean on the horror, you know.
Definitely. I thought too. What was the other? The Burrowers was very much like a Western as well, with that just happened to have some monsters in it.
Yeah.
That showed up from time to time. And I agree with you. It's sort of genre, like period stuff. You got to kind of pick what you want to focus on more. And I think if you're doing a period thing, the period should be this. You're doing that for a reason, right? So
yeah.
If it's a medieval movie, like was it Black Death? I think was the one.
Yeah.
With Sean Bean, it was still a medieval movie. It just happened to have the horror elements attached to it.
But The Wind looks, again, I'm only looking at the shots on IMDb, but I'm loving what I'm seeing.
It's very well made, beautifully shot.
Looks beautiful.
Yeah, it was one of those two that was by surprise. Like I was like, wow, and that's sort of with these 5. I think that's what really struck me, is that they're made. None of these movies, I'm sure, were multi-million-dollar films. I'm sure the most maybe $1 million if they were lucky, for something like a Sea Fever or The Wind. But they're all made. They're all well acted. They're well written. They're well directed. They're well made. They look good. These are people that knew what they were doing, and we get so much stuff sent at us, John. And I'm sure you find it too with things that they're just crap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the only reason they've been picked up is because they knew they could probably make a few bucks. Never mind that it wasn't well made, well shot, well acted, or anything.
Yeah.
But these 5 were good from start to finish, and every aspect of it was well done. And that's more than I can say than most Hollywood movies nowadays.
Well, I also, in a weird way, I blame cover art. And I'll explain what I mean, is that very often a studio, an independent distribution studio is what I mean, will pick one of these things up, bundle it with 50 other titles, sell it to a streaming platform, and have one person with barely any talent on Photoshop slap together 50 different posters that all kind of look the same. Anyone who's ever bought like one of those top 50 horror box set DVD things will know exactly what I mean. Anyone who's ever scrolled through Amazon Prime looking at horror movies made in the last 5 years, they all have the same cover art. And the problem is that the movies are not made by the same people. The movies aren't often even from the same year, the same whatever. These are very often independent movies that, like I say, are picked up by a distribution company and then sold as a big mass on streaming. And it's why, sometimes you can tell, like sometimes if it's, I don't know, fucking Clownado or something, you're like, okay, fine, I know what I'm in for here. And or if it's clearly like something that they made for the Sci-Fi Channel and it or something that was made for Full Moon streaming or something, you can kind of go, okay, I know what I'm looking at. But very often there's a movie like this or a movie like Big Legend or whatever that's hiding in amongst those that just for the nature of distribution and streaming distribution. And I'm not saying that this is the case, but I'm just saying very often get a cover which I look at and I go, I don't quite know whether I'm going to like this or not. The cover art isn't speaking to me. It's not the same as picking up a VHS and being able to look at the back and go, okay, here's some screenshots from the film. Like I can always tell when I look at a screenshot versus a poster, I can always tell these days. But back in the day, you could tell from the poster. So, I think sometimes streaming does these movies a disservice. So again, it's why having you on the show, but in general having shows like yours out there is such a massive help to so many people, because we are the word of mouth. You know what I mean? Like if you're in an area where you don't have 50 or 100 film-loving friends who are all bouncing ideas off each other around the pub table every week, like we all had at university or college or whatever. Once you're out in the world and you maybe only have 2 or 3 film friends and maybe you only see them once a month or whatever it is, word of mouth doesn't spread as quickly unless you're listening to shows like yours, which is why I think it's a genuine education and a wonder to have you doing a top 5 like this, because I'm going to watch all 5 of these, and I know that my co-host Jim, who's always looking for indie horror movies to watch will watch these and like the sound of them, and definitely Sea Fever. He's going to love the idea of Sea Fever. Anything on a spaceship or a boat seems to get Jim's attention, so that's a good thing. Big Legend will play right into me and my friend Owen's sweet spot, and Echoes of Fear and My Soul to Keep, I think Kim and I will love. I think my wife's a big ghost horror fan.
Nice.
So I think we're going to love those two. So it's great. I feel like this top 5 was perfectly positioned to kind of play to a lot of the people I know and a lot of our audience. So I'm super happy about that, man.
Well, let me know what you think. I'm really curious because I don't know very many people who've seen any of these. You know what I mean? I mean, Sea Fever hasn't hit yet. It hits like, in about a week or so.
Right.
But I mean, Echoes of Fear, all those, like, it's just people. Every time I see the filmmakers, I become friends with like Trista Robinson and stuff. Whenever they put out something about their film, I try to retweet it so more people see it because I want people should be watching that instead of the late. I mean, I like The Conjuring, but like there's been you see all those spin-offs. Like it's better than all those. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know why people just don't give these movies a chance sometimes, which is why we always try to champion them on From the Basement and, in shows like yours and everything like that. Like, I think that's why the podcasts have become very important, like you say, to spreading we are the word of mouth.
Yeah.
To get these films seen.
Definitely. But now I feel like what we need in this day and age of, mass podcasting, like everyone has a podcast now, what we need is a podcast that's word of mouth for all of our podcasts.
I agree. Because it is hard to get the message. You're right. Like, you've been doing this 9 years. I've been doing it 10. There wasn't very many back when we started doing this, John, and now they're like everywhere.
So the irony was, Jason, on our first ever episode, my co-host was actually Jim's, who's my regular co-host now, actually his brother, John, who I grew up with. And John and I were chatting on the first episode, and John said, well, it's good you're starting your podcast now because The Guardian just put out an article today that says, is podcasting dead? And that was 9 years ago. So we started on a day that The Guardian put out one of The Guardian's twatty think pieces about, well, is podcasting dead? And then, of course, jump forward 5 years and there's a massive explosion of it that's still rippling out today. But I keep plugging along. I have the same X amount of listeners every episode. I still get enough feedback that warrants me babbling into the void. So, and it keeps me off the streets, Jason. Keeps me safe.
Well, me too. Exactly, right? Safe. I don't get into trouble anymore. I'm doing dumb things all the time, and let's face it, we do it because we love to do it. We love film. It's fun.
Yeah,
right.
It's great.
And
it's great.
The fact that people listen is even better.
Yeah, and the people I've met, and the places I've been able to go, and the stuff that I've been able to see because of it has been just a rich testament to the technology and the art form of it, such as it is. So without wanting to sound highfalutin, but you know what I mean.
I do.
So what's next on and for From the Basement, and what movies are you looking forward to coming up, dude?
Well, let's see. This Friday, which the 27th. I'm not sure when you're going to run this, but this Friday on the 27th, we're reviewing Case 347, which is a found footage UFO movie.
Okay.
And we also got to watch We Summon the Darkness with Alexandra Daddario, so we're going to be reviewing that as well.
Nice. That's been getting some buzz. I've seen that flying around socials a bit.
It has been, yeah. And I don't want to say too much now, but I was glad to see it, which was great. And then coming up, we've got it's tough because there's lots of stuff we were looking forward to that now they're not coming out we don't know when they're going to hit. In terms of big releases, but we've got, with lots of screeners. So we're going to check out Alyssa Dowling and Rootwood, which looks kind of like a good monster in the woods story. Never too many of those. And we got some interviews coming up. We're actually interviewing Nisa Hardiman here pretty quick, who directed Sea Fever. So I'm curious to see what she has to say about it.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah. We just kind of getting stuff like that going because Radio NL is still on the air and will remain on the air throughout the pandemic. So that means we're on the air.
That's great, man.
Keep doing our thing. Yeah.
And we didn't get into it when you were talking about it, but obviously there are always those voices online that are looking for diverse filmmakers, and especially for sort of female filmmakers to emerge certainly within genre film, which has traditionally been a male-dominated area. Obviously, you've got those wonderful Canadians, the Soska twins, that are still
Yes.
banging out some horror movies. And I know that you always have some nice, diverse voices on the basement, interviewing a lot of actors, actresses, and film directors. But great to see a female filmmaker, writer team putting out a horror movie. It's another reason to be excited about it.
Absolutely.
Not that I go for any kind of knee jerk, like, well, if a female's doing it, then it must be better. I'm not saying that. I just mean it's always nice to hear different voices. I remember when Booksmart came out, which kind of got mixed reviews because some people thought it was too hipster and other people thought it was great. But I actually really enjoyed it, and what I liked about it was, here's a movie that isn't from, it's a knockabout comedy. It's weird. It's wonderful. It's racy at times, but it's from the perspective of females. It's written and directed by females. And, if I sit down and never see another movie starring a 30-something male again, I'll be happy. And it's because, like we were talking about earlier, we've seen 100 years worth of movies where 30-something men were the leads, even if
Forever.
Even if it's written and directed by a guy, or even if it's produced by whatever it is, just having those stories from a different perspective is great, and you're seeing it, thankfully, in the African American community again, which is awesome. I think about every 10 to 15 years you get another great wave of African American movies, and hopefully this one long continues, because I love, like I said, I just sat down to watch Queen and Slim the other day. Thankfully, when it came out, it did really well at the box office. But I don't know about you. I saw no chatter about it online, and
Nothing. Not a thing.
I follow a bunch of people. Again, I don't just follow people like myself. I follow a bunch of people, and I didn't see any mention of it. And yet, there is a movie that is, first of all, 100% a genre film. It's definitely in the mold of Badlands or True Romance or whatever. It's got that genre, road movie, heist movie, action movie, whatever you want to call it, vibe to it, and all the genre tropes because of it. But it's also about the African American experience. It's almost entirely stars African Americans, apart from a few Caucasians in the film, and it is written it's directed by a woman. I don't know if it's written by a woman. It might also be written by a woman, but it's directed by a woman. So it's like, not that it needs to be, but I'm just saying, like, if you want a diverse storyline with diverse voices and a different take on a genre that you love, that to me is the gateway. If you really have a stumbling block, and I don't think either of us do, but if you really have a stumbling block about getting into either female directed or African American or Asian or whatever different diverse filmmaking you're talking about, find one that fits the genre you love and make that your kind of like gateway film, and then just blow it out from there. It's I don't, you shouldn't have to say that in 2020, but apparently we still do. So
exactly, unfortunately.
But no,
we may have to for a long time.
I'm excited to see Sea Fever for that reason, because give me some horror films. Come on, give me some horror films from a female perspective. That'd be awesome. I feel like it's so odd to me, because why in the art that we consume are we limited by a third of the population? Like, why are we just watching stuff that's made by, as I said, 30-something white guys? Not that 30-something white guys can't make great movies, but why do we limit ourselves to the same stories? All the time.
So it's almost the same 30-something white guys too. You know what I mean? Like, they get most of the press when they make a movie anyhow.
No, it is. Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And it was nice. I would much rather see, as I say, genre films because that's my love. I love genre films. If you can tell me in an elevator that it's a monster movie and it's set in a boat. It's set in a boat. It's a monster movie. whatever, then I'm already interested just because you've said monster movie and whatever.
On a boat.
On a boat, or whatever it is. Yeah, monster movie in space, or it's a slasher film in whatever. Like, if you use genre language with me, I'm already interested. And if it's from a diverse voice, so much the better, because we need that. So I'm super excited for all of them, but Sea Fever and My Soul to Keep with the child element in it, that's going to be great. And The Wind sounds great as well. So lots.
Yeah, they're all worth watching, definitely.
Lots to enjoy. And so From the Basement remains on the air, so please do keep tuning into that. And any other things that you're looking forward to coming out, or anything else that you want to say, sir, before we wrap this up and you tell us your socials and where you can be found?
I just hope people, this is, especially now that we're all supposed to self-isolate, it's a good time to watch stuff. So I think, people get out there, watch these movies, or even just share with us like what you are all watching. You know what I mean? To share ideas. We've all got the time on our hands. So I mean, we can be found on Facebook, From the Basement. We've got the website, wecamefromthebasement.com. We're on Twitter, which is @CameTheBasement. Drop us a line. Let us know, or even the old-fashioned way at basementreviews@gmail.com. Let us know what you're watching or what you'd like us to check out, or even what you'd like John to check out on After Movie Diner. Let's share what we're watching with each other. We've all got the time.
Definitely. Couldn't agree more. Sounds fantastic, man.
Awesome, John.
So thank you so much for being a guest on the After Movie Diner. You're welcome back anytime, my podcasting brother from another mother.
Absolutely, man. And
send all my best to Sean as well.
I will do that. And let me know when you want to run this. I'll promote it tomorrow on our site and stuff like that as well, John. When it's up, I'll circulate it everywhere as well. And
thanks again, dude, for your support of the album. That meant a ton. It's even more so than the podcast. It's a lot of work and lonely work putting out an album, and I put a ton of time and energy into that. So any kind of coverage super helps, and that was a lovely write-up you gave. So thanks so much for that, man. Honestly, that meant a ton to me.
My pleasure. And Sean actually said, send a bunch of the songs, and we always put a song at the end of the podcast, like the podcast episode. We'll circulate your guys' music out that way too. So if you want to email me a few tracks or something, go ahead. It's a good album. I've been listening to it. I really, really enjoy it. So
thanks
it's very
a lot,
good.
Man. Thank you. Yeah, I tried to do something a bit different with this one. So, and I'm releasing some more music just as the mood takes me, and when I have time over the quarantine, I'm just putting some stuff out there for people to listen to free on SoundCloud. I'm not charging anyone anything right now. It's just I'm putting it out for free. If people like it, great. If not, it doesn't matter. But hopefully keep people entertained. And
Absolutely. All
right, dude. All the best. Well, look, lovely chatting with you, and take care, man. Speak soon.
You betcha. Sounds good. Take care, brother.
All right. So as I was just discussing there, I'm kind of putting out some songs here and there on SoundCloud. The latest one I did, called Wanna, I went up over the weekend. That's what's going to play next on the show. But if you want to check out that album and follow us on SoundCloud, the link will be in the episode description, and wherever you find it on social. It'll also be over on our website, miscplumbfix.com. That's miscplumbfix.com. Please do go check that out. And thank you ever so much for listening. All the very best. Have a great week.
Kicking and the screaming.
place where it all just falls away. I wanna be the vandal with the charm instead of the nuisance in the clan. I want my voice to sound like that. Maybe it does to you. Maybe I got it all backwards. I want my days to end up here, and they definitely do. Let's get to the point where there aren't any actors. Round the corner of your future, those facts and figures do nothing for you. It's all just a dizzying ray, a barrage that just won't go away. I wanna be a comforter, not a commuter. I wanna be a comforter, not the commuter. I wanna be the comforter, not a commuter. I wanna be you. I wanna be the people on the screen. With them you don't see through to the kicking and the screaming. I wanna be true, but in a way that everyone can tell. I wanna be blissfully unaware instead of burning on down to the blood cell. Around the corner of your future, those facts and figures do nothing for you. It's all just a dizzying array of